weekend. It's within sight, and we are so pleased that you are checking out the Sportsline Podcast on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neil. As I say on the daily, this podcast is a space to highlight the outstanding athletes, coaches, executives, broadcasters, and in this case, entrepreneurs in some way for the Golden Horseshoe that are making their mark. And in today's case, we won't just recognize, we're going to celebrate the best of the best. Tuesday, May 28th, the exclusive Burlington Golf and Country Club and the class of 2024 will be officially inducted into the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame. These special individuals have gone up and beyond the level of excellence when it pertains to sports in the city of Burlington. And on this very special edition of the Sportsline Podcast, Hall of Fame executive members Chris Dooley and Philp are in the house to celebrate. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This is a real treat for me. I got involved in the hall a couple of years ago, and it kind of just came to me like, wow, Chris, what a special area we live in.
Absolutely. The number of athletes that have excelled at the world level is very, very impressive. This is my fourth year involved with the executive, and every year it's so neat to see the quality of the classes that are getting put into the hall. It's quite something to be proud of.
And it's become so hard because there's so many of these athletes, and as I said, executives, officials. You got to recognize them, but the number is growing.
Oh, absolutely. Every year we're stuck in with so many nominations, Clint, that come through that we absolutely go back and forth with, and I probably will talk later on in terms of how that process works. But it's a nice position to be in at this time, absolutely.
And I think the best part of it all is it gets to be at a real nice place with a wonderful host in the Burlington Golf and Country Club.
Absolutely, and good friend of yours, Steve Foxcroft, is the MC, and he's world class.
He's not my friend.
He's world class himself. He's world class himself, and that he adds a lot to it. And the format that they do, where they, rather than just present, he interviews the person up on the dais, and it's very cool to see. And he handles it really, really well. And it's a fun evening.
Well, he is. I mean, I'll give him that. There is no man that can command the respect in the room with his lousy jokes than our boy Stevie Foxcroft. But yeah, look forward to the ceremony and see what he comes up with, because it's like a new program every single year. Let's continue into this. Now, I think there's a question that I think I need to ask. I go, why? I mean, this whole committee was inaugurated in 2007. It came to fruition with its first inductee class, I believe, in 2008. Chris, why is it important to have a Hall of Fame?
I think it's sport is a big part of community, and it's good to recognize that and celebrate that. And I think Burlington is separated itself from Hamilton a little bit in terms of Hamilton has had this Hall of Fame for a long time, and Burlington started their own. They had a group called the Burlington Sport Alliance that were just promoting sport and recognizing the quality of executives, the quality of athletes, world-class athletes, and that evolved into the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame.
And I think to continue that the thought of that and what goes into getting a class of each particular year, how do people get involved? How do people get nominated? Because I know we see these outstanding classes, but I think there's a process to it.
Yeah, there absolutely is. But prior to that, Bubba, we had to put something together. And as Chris said, Bryce Leggett was one of our founding fathers, yes. and we had to have a foundation. And unfortunately, Bryce has passed away, but his legacy lives on. And so, you know, he and the other people who started, Chris and I have been, like you said, 4 years together on the committee. They put a vision and what accountability and some of the values are. So I just want to go over those because they are very important to realize and remember. And the vision of the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame is to identify and recognize athletes, builders, media, officials and volunteers who have demonstrated exceptional achievement and commitment in their specific sport. Engage and inspire through recognizing excellence in sport. And obviously our values are integrity and honesty. We'll demonstrate that to the utmost ability. We believe it is essential in building community, support, commitment, and loyalty of our volunteers and local sports organizations. So we we review that a lot when we're going through it. That's got to be a part of the criteria that the individuals we have. And then once again, then we'll go through, and Chris can talk to it a little bit about how does that nomination, how does individuals be nominated?
Yeah, what I really enjoy about this whole process is that it's a community process, that anybody can nominate anybody. You can nominate there's criteria that has to be met, but anybody can nominate anybody. Then those nomination names come to the executive, and the executive pores over and decides which ones are eligible, maybe, and then it goes to to a nomination committee, and the nomination committee meeting, it can be contentious because some people have really high thoughts on this person or that person. We try to get around 5 people per year, and it's really, really challenging because the quality of the nominees is quite something, and then the nomination committee has to go through those, and then they recommend a slate, and that slate goes back to the executive, and then the executive approves it. So it's a really neat process.
And I think what people have to remember, it's not just new people that are nominated each year. There are the new nominees, but there's also carryovers from the year before that need to be considered. So that meeting must be really fun, maybe even a little hot at times in terms of people's opinions.
So you're absolutely right. It gets lively, that's for sure, Clint. But I'm actually a scrutineer. I've been a scrutineer. Chris is on the executive, so he gets to vote and make the final decision. So no, nobody's come across the table or anything like that. But it does get lively, and then we make sure that we obviously every year select the appropriate candidates. That's
all for the good. All for the good. And another question that comes across my plate: where is the hall? And Hamilton, for the longest time, it was kind of floating all over the place. Now they have a home. Burlington has a home as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it's at 414 Locust Street in Burlington, right near Lakeshore. Great location. And one of the great things that's happened in the last 2 years is that there's a touch screen, so it's interactive. So I could go on and press on Jake Godar, and I could read the bios that have been written about the athlete that I want to look at or the person I want to look at. And it's very, very cool, and there's pictures and there's memorabilia. It's very, very well done.
And I think also to remember, too, that you have gone above and beyond to name sponsors. I mean, these things just don't happen if we don't have people that help and give, and that's an important part of the hall as well, too. People that give back.
Absolutely, yeah. Sport doesn't happen without sponsors. Sport doesn't happen without volunteers. The hall recognizes a lot of volunteers, but it also recognizes sponsors.
Okay. You know what? Here's the thing. Let's reveal the class of 2024. And for many people, this is the first time that this class is going to be named. So here's a guy. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it because in my heart, not to say that anyone was more important than anyone, but this guy, I don't know when I look at his face whether to laugh or to cry. Right? 2-6, Peter Moore. I mean, called me for how many holding penalties? Come on, Pete. Come on, 2-6. And on top of that, I think about what he did in terms of the Halton Sports convener role that he had. And you know what Steve Foxcroft and I did with our Halton Sports Week program for, at least a decade of us working together, putting together the Friday night games of the week. That would have never happened without Peter Moore. A little bit on 2-6, guys.
Well, first of all, I think on our plaque, we should say Peter Moore 2-6, because in the world of basketball and football, especially at the refereeing level, everybody knows him as 2-6. And Peter was an OUA football official from 1969 until 1995. And he was a signer for the Lakeshore Football Officials Association for 25 years. So he's going in as a builder. He also refereed OUA basketball, where I have a lot of impact with him over the years. He was an OUA ref for 25 years. He also chaired, and one of the things that I'm very impressed with his work, He chaired 6 different girls' OFSA championships and 7 boys' OFSA championships. And there's a lot of work putting together a 16, 18-team tournament. And Peter always made sure that it was classy. And the thing that you just said, that a lot of people in here is that he was the first Halton convener, first Halton athletic convener from 1990 to 2005. And as you do, I have a very soft spot for Peter. He passed away in 2013. And I know that a lot of referees, coaches, and athletes that are watching this right now will be thankful that Peter is being inducted into our Hall of Fame.
There's no doubt about it. And he did it with a character unlike none other. Really did.
Yeah. Flair.
Yeah, he did. I was fortunate enough to have him referee me both in basketball and football, and then went on to play football at the OUA, and he was there too. So we would always have he'd always have a one-liner for me, as you know, and have a side story. So yeah, we do miss him, absolutely.
Lisa Turbot, like, she broke down barriers, and she did it with an incredible level of excellence.
Yes, it is incredible. Lisa Turbot has been an umpire for over 40 years.
Wow.
And at Baseball Canada national level since 1995. She's umpired and supervised 20 Canadian national championships and was the first woman to umpire at the Canadian Games in 2004 and 2006. She was the home plate umpire for the Women's World Cup gold medal game in 2004. And in 2004 also, Lisa was named the recipient of the Dick Willis Memorial, which gives Baseball Canada's Umpire of the Year. She was first woman to umpire at a baseball World Classic qualifying tournaments in 2002 and received the Lifetime Achievement Award, the first woman to receive this last year in 2023. So, wow, what a resume.
And we just have a couple of things on the boards. These boards can only hold so much information, but it's amazing what she has accomplished, and did it in a sport in a situation where umpires were mainly male dominant, and
Absolutely.
To gain the respect of not only your umpires that you are with as well too, but the players as well too. I think that just speaks to what kind of class she held herself in, and the fact that she executed the job and did it just as good as anyone else.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. And it's nice to see, as Peter was an umpire, not an umpire, but a referee. It's nice to see those stripes going in at the same time.
Yeah, because we can get real hot at them sometimes. I mean, we've all just played, right? Yeah. We can get hot at them sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's a fun one for me. He goes in on goalie, shoots, he scores. Mark Juris.
Mark Juris, yes. Mark is going in as actually an athlete and a builder, and he's the current coach and general manager of our local Burlington Cougars. Go Cougars. But he is really synonymous with hockey success in Burlington. He got to start with the Cougars and set an amazing record with 127 points in the 80-81 season. He then went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, RPI as people know it, which is in Troy, New York. Thank you, Chris. And he totaled 183 points in 117 games over 4 seasons. And they also won the national championship in 84-85. Mark played in 13 seasons professional hockey in the Finnish Elite League, the American Hockey League, and the German and Swiss leagues as well. After his playing career, he turned to coaching and scouting. He was a scout for the Vancouver Canucks of the NHL and coached in the Swiss League as well, and the Ontario Junior Hockey League. In 2016, Mark was named the Coach of the Year in the Ontario Hockey Association. Once again, what strengths and what he's done is just phenomenal, and another worthy candidate, inductee.
What makes Mark so worthy to me when I think about him, when you look at the bio and you look at all that he's accomplished on the ice, and there are a lot of competition on the ice as well, too. Let's not forget that. And there are some players, too, that are probably going to go in at some point in this Burlington Sports Hall of Fame. But I think of 2 things. One, his commitment to playing for his country, right? Absolutely. Team Canada is one. And the fact that he had all those years of playing all over the world, and then chose to come back home and spread the wealth, mentorship, experience, coaching, giving back. That's just, Chris, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I love about his story is that that scoring record that he said that he had set was broken. And it was broken by his son.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, 2010, his son broke his record.
Yeah.
Speaking of fathers and sons, for the first time in the history of the Hall, it's a duo of a father and son going in, same last name, of course, folks, and did the same sport. In fact, competed in some of the same actualities of the sport as well, too. Jim and Brady Reardon, really, really special. Let's start with Pops first and Jim.
It's an amazing story, I think, that father and son did the same event at the Olympic level. Like, it's not being good at something and your kid's good at something, like the Olympic level. And Jim represented Canada in 1972 at the Munich Olympics, and in the K4 1000. What K4 means is it's a kayak and there's 4 people in it and they're going 1,000 meters. And I think that, but also he was a head coach of the Mohawk Canoe Club in 1970, and it's now called the Burlington Canoe Club. And he also was an assistant coach. And one of the things I like about the journey of these people is that once they're done, they're not done, is they give back. So he was an assistant coach at the 1984 Olympics, and he brought home for Canada, his athletes, 1 silver and 1 gold medal. And I think that's very cool. But the greatest thing that he might have done was that he fathered Brady. And Brady, he represented Canada in the K4 1000 at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. And he moved on and he decided to try the K1. So just single. In 2012, he won a World Cup silver medal. 2013, he went to K2, and he kayaked with his longtime training partner, Adam Van Couverden.
Excellence.
Another excellent athlete. And then in 2014, in the K2 as well, he came 7th at the World Championships, and it's Canada's best ever result. That's an amazing story.
I think that's incredible because what I like about that is, and I say this Adam Van Couverden all the time, and then the fact that multiple world champion, Olympic medalist several times over, no one better in the sport, and especially coming from our area too, training at that Brawny Canoe Club, is that sport is a sport that it's not the hockey, it's not basketball, whatever. No. It's the work that goes into it, and I would remember seeing guys like Adam and guys like Brady in the 16 Mile Creek, like by themselves, just plowing away. Like it's so like a solo. You have to work together, but it's a job that you don't really, you got to coach, but you're in that boat by yourself, working hard by yourself.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. It is mostly an individual sport, obviously, but then when you get such elite athletes, and these guys, their fitness is just through the roof.
Unreal.
What they have to go through. It's just not upper body. There's so much cardio that has to go into it. And, you know, once they get in the boat together, like the 4, like you were talking about, you got to trust in each other. That's why, maybe a segue, but I love the men's 8. The men's 8 in the Olympics, rowing is one of my favorite competitions because it is my favorite competition because it's all about teamwork and the physicality that has to go with it, and you have to do your job like a team sport.
The shape level that you have to be in, that core level, all that kind of stuff. And like you said, you're doing that in unison with each other as a team. But you other got competing boats on either side of you, right?
Exactly.
It's going just as hard as you guys to represent your country. So congratulations to the Reardons. Now, Mr. Tate. Now, what about Mr. Tate? Let's bring him in as well, too.
Well, John has a soft spot in both Chris and my hearts. He's wonderful. He's been on the committee for a while. He hasn't for the past few years, but he's just been a dedicated volunteer over the last 40 years with Burlington City Rep hockey. He was the founding member of the Burlington Wolves. The Wolves eventually became the Burlington Eagles and City Rep Hockey Club as we know them today. In 1995, he was named president of the position, held it for 25 years. He was the founder of the Ron Wilkins Thanksgiving Classic Hockey Tournament, helped develop the highly successful Golden Horseshoe Tournament, attracting teams from all over North America and Europe. John also co-founded the Gift of Giving Back, Canada's largest youth organized food drive. And he was a member of the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame and also the Burlington Sports Alliance, and he gets in as a builder for us, and we can't be more happier for John.
Well, this Eagles program, let's be honest here, that's synonymous with success. The amount of athletes and hockey players and even coaches that have gone through that program and gone on to bigger and greater things is amazing. But it's funny that you think about it. I think about those early rep years, and especially trying to cover that stuff. You had like maybe one team for each age group. Well, now you've got each age group represented, but you got A, double A, triple A, elite,
girls and boys.
Girls and boys now. The growth of these programs are incredible, and what he put together and to found the likes of that team. Well, I guess it's not even a team; it's almost like a franchise at this point that is now run by several people. And I think that just to have that vision and say, hey, you know what? I think that we have enough people or enough kids here to run an elite hockey program, and then have it be as successful as it is. I mean, again, well deserved.
Well, one thing that you mentioned earlier was that Mark Juris is synonymous with excellence in hockey in Burlington. Well, Mark Juris and all these other athletes that have done tremendous things in hockey wouldn't do it without volunteers like John Tate.
Yep, that would never happen, absolutely. And I'm sure they'll be so happy to see John get in as well. That'll be a nice night for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting that we do put together I think these award nominees, and it's so outstanding that we do put together and recognize these athletes. But now you have something called the Don Greed Award of Distinction. And I think that is a new award, basically, that represents someone that won't go in the hall, but they have done something real special to the community as well.
Yeah, and I'll talk about what it's about, and then
Sure.
Chris will talk a little bit about who the recipient is this year. This award honors an athlete, organization, or team whose accomplishments are worthy of recognition, even if they don't meet the criteria of the induction of the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame. It is this intent of this award to not only recognize these achievements, but also to shine a light on all who have contributed to the outstanding legacy of sport in our community. And actually, Chris and I are sitting beside one of the recipients from previous. It would be Bubba O'Neil, for sure.
I think it's very cool that last year's event was interrupted by a whole bunch of Central High School alumni were there to honor a person who was getting put into the hall. And the reason it was interrupted was they went out and they had to phone. They had to phone their coach. And the coach that they phoned was Ward Russell. And Ward Russell coached football and basketball at Central from 1954 till 1987. And the love that guys like Tony Gabriel had for Ward and all of it was very neat to see. And he's getting the Don Green this year.
Well, let me read that. 1954 to 1987. And the word mentor, I brought that up earlier, how important that is. And I know I can think of myself as a member of Assumption High School in Burlington. And it was the benefactor. Like, it was a very young school when I went there. It was only the second year that started when I went there. I guess I'm dating myself now. 82, right? But my school had very young teachers. And to this day, and I don't know if that maybe because they were just fresh out of teacher school, that there was a relativity between the students and the teachers that lasts to this day, right? I ran into a teacher, that I hadn't seen in many, many years, Mr. Lewicki. I still call him Mr. Lewicki, right? Right? And I almost bawled. Like, it was, these people meant so much to me, and I looked up to them. And when again, we think about the sports that we played in, the football, and our first soccer championships, and all things I was involved in. And it is amazing how much, and I think sometimes we overlook these kind of things, the actual imprint a teacher can have on a student, and that's a perfect example right there.
Well, one thing that I always believe is that the most impact that an adult can have on a high school kid is after school, quite often. Like, that math or science or English might be their favorite subject and they connect with the teacher, but if you're on a team, and you're after school and you're out on the football field till 5:30 in the freezing cold and the hot and whatever, that's where you really, really make an impact. And I think good coaches like Ward Russell, obviously, it isn't just the sports skill that they send, it's the life skills that they send. And I think that's very important to understand.
And he hadn't coached or taught in 36 years, yet he still has this core group of players calling him and making sure that he knew what was going on and he was a part of that evening. I mean, that's just, like you say, that's probably $1 million in his emotional bank account that he can never repay, but we can never repay our coaches and teachers for what they do, too.
Because many of those people, they take the time to not just know about you as a student, it's you as a kid. How's your family? Right. And then you meet them later. Yeah. How's your son? How's your daughter? How's your wife? Yeah. Like, and they're so invested. Yes. And I think that's an example for all of us to be that way. And I know not everyone can be that way. Not everyone's that open and personal, but it is does go to show you the effect it can have and how it can last for many, many years. Because you're right. I was at that event, and I look at all these people from Central High School, right? But they just all wanted to be there because they wanted to say thank you. Yeah. Right?
And another word we could use for that, Clint, is heroes, right? Aren't they our heroes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fair.
Very true.
Right? You know, guys, this year's induction ceremony on the 28th of May at the Burlington Country Club, it is a sold-out event, and it just goes to show you the importance of what this night, what this ceremony, this whole induction process, what it means to the people of the city of Burlington. So people like you are certainly to be commended for all the work that you put in for this. Now, what I kind of found out about is that, Chris, you've kind of went on your own and did something to kind of, I guess, sort of let people know and bring them back. And I think of the Olympia Sports Camp. I can't name how many people in my life went to the Olympia Sports Camp, right? And you charted and detailed this in a book called A Hero's Journey. Why? What'd you do this for?
Well, I wrote a book called Can't Miss. I wrote about Kevin Pangos, and a big part of Kevin's story was his time at Olympia Sports Camp. And then I remember talking to Dave Grace, the owner of Olympia, and I said, Dave, you know what? Somebody's got to chronicle a history of this place, because it just last year was its 50th anniversary. I didn't know that at the time, but I said, somebody's got to write that, and you know what? That somebody might be me. I've been a coach at Olympia since 1986. And it's just a special place. And I just thought that Dave Grace's big part is the hero's journey. And when I think of being on this committee, I think that I'm looking at all of these people's accomplishments, but also we're looking at their journey. Because if you look at successful people, they aren't hung up on individual results. What happens this week or what happens in this game. It's more the process of where they're going with it. And just the number of stories that I got from people that are just ordinary people that just had a passion and they followed that passion. And the process is far more important. The outcome, the idea of taking risks, the idea of going after goals. Like, people say that, but to actually do it. There's a lot of high school kids, as an example, who think they're working hard, but they're not really working hard until they commit to the process and don't get the up and down of like losing that game or losing this, or what it is. It's all losing, and failure is a big part of growth. And I think that that's something that's really important. But I think the biggest thing, and we're talking about it here, and I look at the people that are going into the hall and all the people that have gone into the hall in the past, is that our impact on other people. Because, like, I think of Peter Moore as an example. Good athlete, good refereed football, basketball. When his knees wasn't letting him do it, he did more of the assigning. And people give back. People that coach they were coached. They learned the mentorship because they saw it in their coach. So they said, I've got to do exactly the same thing, and they give back. And we said it earlier, sport doesn't really happen without volunteers. And volunteers don't really happen if they're not mentored by somebody before them and they want to live up to that person's standards. And I think that's something very important. And this isn't a Burlington thing, this is a Hamilton thing, but a lot of people watching this will know, is Doug Harrison just passed away. And Doug Harrison and I have such a history, it's hilarious, where we go way back. but he had the guts to try something. His daughter, Vicky, and a few friends were looking to play basketball, and he wasn't happy with their options. And he was a great player at Delta and won championships, and he wanted to do it the right way. So he started a program, got a sponsor, it's called Transway, and that's 1979. Mm-hmm. Well, that little goal to help his daughter and help those kids is now, like, there's hundreds and hundreds of athletes who have given back and have excelled at the highest level. Kia Nurse is the easiest example, but they now are giving back, and a lot of people are coaching, all because one man had a goal, had a passion, and went after it. And I think that that's an example of a hero's journey, just like the Reardons, just like John Tate, all of these people that are going into the Hall this year.
It's amazing, and I'm so glad that you've done that in this book form, to put that together, to tell those stories, name those names of the people that are important for, in their lives, and especially people who have gone to the camp and experienced the growth and level in sports and teaching and learning and playing sports that maybe you're not so good at, to learn to learn other skills. I think that's always so important. But, you're right, and I do think of the likes of the Transway program and what they've done for especially women's basketball, girls basketball at all levels. I think of the Stony Creek Sabres. I mean, all the Brand Jenner, who scored a goal last night, Sarah Nurse. Like, it takes a number of people, and it's so hard. It is so hard to organize these types of groups, and so many challenges and field time and ice time, and it's not easy, folks. But there are always these special people in our community that certainly, and that's why I think the Sports Hall of Fame is so important, because I don't know, no one does this for the money or whatever, and no one does it for the pat on the back, but I think it is an opportunity to give back and just say, thank you, Peter Moore, thank you, Lisa Turbin, Mark Juris, John Tate, the Reardon family. Like, congratulations for what you've done, because it's an amazing thing. And if we can do it once a year in every community, not just Burlington and Hamilton, Ward Russell, just an amazing thing. So, guys, this was great for you to come in here. I think for many, this is a revealing the class of 2024. So I appreciate all that you're doing, what your group is doing. I've watched from afar for many years. Now to be a part of it in some little small way means a lot to me as well, too. And I think a lot of people are going to be looking forward to the 28th of May.
That's right. One thing I want to say, you are a Don Green Award winner, and we would like to honor you today. We would like to present you with a gift. And I think it was when I was teaching at Bishop Redding, but you and Foxy had that show, and kids would come to school and they'd be saying, did you hear what they said last night? And it was like they could phone in and doing all this, and the kids just love it. And there was one kid, I have no idea his name, I have no idea if he did it. He said, you know what, I think those guys are so sharp, I think I'm gonna go into media, because they enjoy what they're doing, and I wanna do that too. And I thought, that's a really neat story. I have no idea if it came true, but I want to thank you for having us on, and I want to honor you with a copy of my book.
I can't wait to read this, because these are the things that, it's funny, I used to love picking up a Sports Illustrated, and that's all I wanted to read, but these are the kind of stories I like to read right now. These are the kind of movies that I like to watch, because they inspire me and certainly keep me going as well, too, and hopefully in some small way I can, help someone out or whatever, guys.
That's what heroes do.
That's right. You are extremely helpful, and also thank you to CHCH for doing this. This really helps our team, because we have a team behind us that are so wonderful, and it doesn't happen without that. So thank you so much.
Well, as long as I'm behind this little microphone here on the Sportsline podcast, I look forward to next year, guys, and we can reveal the class of 2025. That would be
awesome.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Folks, if sports with Southern Ontario and a golden horseshoe flavor is your thing, the Sportsline podcast do want to hear from you. Please subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, and subscribe on the likes of TikTok and YouTube, so this way you always get the latest and greatest edition of the podcast here on CHCH, including Trending Now and Newsmakers. For the amazing hands and minds that do make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much, and we'll see you next week.